right, Shalom. Call Halayim Yahweh Bahasham Yahweh Shai Bahasham Rakak Kodash. And double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, better known as GMS, who rule well. Peace and salutations unto the hopeful elect, the tabernacle of David. And I'm your brother Matazabath, all right, from the Melbourne camp here in Australia, coming back at you with another lesson through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. And what I wanted to do was I wanted to do a land back off the elder from GMS Vegas sit downs 144K. Subscribe so that you may be edified. Now, just a quick disclaimer. My stance within my response to this video is not on the polygyny side of things, because I've done many lessons covering polygyny and how it's actually lawful according to the scriptures. All right. And so any of you Christians that try to come on my comment board spewing your nonsense, knowing that you have no understanding in the volume of the book, it will behoove you to just be quiet, find those lessons so that you may be edified before you open up your mouth. All right. But purely what I want to go into, just for edification purposes, is dealing with Matthew chapter 5, verse 28 to 20, actually starting at verse 27 to 28, where it talks about going into putting, if you lusted after another woman, all right, and what this individual that you're going to hear, all right, in this video, he's going to use that precept, all right, going into it being unlawful for polygyny's sake. Now, why I want to address it is because that scripture, and that's always used, all right, out of the Christian church. They'll run to Matthew 5, verses 27 and 28 to substantiate, to say that if you look on any woman, in a case like if you're married and you look on any woman, for that matter, to lust on, you've already committed adultery within your heart. All right. Some others may say that if you're not married, and they'll take it so far as to go and say, if you look on any woman, you've already committed adultery within your heart. The first thing that you have to understand when coming into this truth, you have to understand what adultery means for a man and a woman, because adultery for a man is not the same thing in terms of definition wise for adultery for a woman. All right. So what I want to do is let me play the clip really quickly, and then we'll get into Matthew 5, verses 27 and 28.
All right. So my question is, I'm pretty sure you're well aware because you saw it yesterday's. It's on the polygamy question. In St. Matthew 5, I have a few scriptures that I would like you to open up, and I'll sit back and I'll be quiet as you open up these scriptures and help us get a better understanding where you come up with the polygamy doctrine. In St. Matthew 5, 27 to 28, it says, "Ye have heard that it was said by them of old time, Thou shalt not commit adultery. But I say unto you, that whosoever looketh on a woman to lust after her hath committed adultery with her already in his heart." What do you have to say about that scripture first?
All right. So that's what I want to cover. And I'll advise you, brothers and sisters, all right, if you haven't watched this lesson, very edifying lesson, go ahead and watch it. All right. So let's actually get rid of these tablets. Let's actually deal with that. So Matthew 5, 27. All right. Straight to the point. It says, "Ye have heard that it was said by them of old time." All right. What was Yahweh Shai getting that to, saying of old time, meaning going back towards the our forefathers back in the law? Thou shalt not commit adultery. That's in the law. You can get that in Exodus, the 20th chapter. Right. So let's look up the term adultery here in the Greek real quick, just to get an understanding. All right.
Strong's G 3431, moichuo.
All right. So it says to commit adultery, to be an adulterer, to commit adultery with have unlawful intercourse with another's wife. It says of the wife to suffer adultery be debak, a Hebrew idiom. The word is used of those who at a woman's solicitation are drawn away to idolatry, i.e. to the eating of things sacrificed to idols, right? Because you have something that's also called spiritual fornication, which goes into committing adultery by separating yourself from Yahweh Bashem Yahushai and worshiping idols and false gods. But in a sense, the correct one is B in terms of a man, because for a man to commit adultery, if he already has a wife, the only way he can commit adultery is by sleeping with another man's wife. Now, let's see if I can, let me see, let's look this up like this and see what it goes into. Because sometimes it doesn't give you the clear cut. Let's see here. It says voluntary sexual intercourse between a married person and a person who is not his or her spouse, right? Now, what I want to do, let's see here. I spelled it wrong. Adultery definition. Let's see here. Because sometimes, and I remember when I first came into the truth, this was one of the first things I learned, because it's actually different. Now, check this out, right? See how they go off here, because they'll tell you, let's see here. Eastern Bible's Dictionary, adultery says conjugal infidelity. An adulterer was a man who had illicit intercourse with a married or a betrothed woman, and such a woman was an adulteress. That's correct. It says intercourse between a married man and an unmarried woman was fornication. Now, that's where they go off, because if the man is married, but he has intercourse with a woman who's single, who's not married or betrothed, that's not adultery. And you see how they sneak that in there. And this is where they go off, because when you look it up, let me see if I can find it for a man. Let's see what this says. Voluntary intercourse activity between a married man and someone other than his wife, or between a married woman and someone other than her husband. Now, for a woman, okay, if she's married, adultery for a woman is if she steps out on her husband, right, and sleeps with anyone, whether it be another man, whether he's married or not, or even a woman, because it also talks about lesbianism, right? Now, it looks like Google has done a very great job in covering this up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come out of here. I'm going to go to dictionaries. All right. We've already looked up. Let's look up the International Standard Bible Encyclopedia, see what we can get from there. Right. There it is right there. See, the International Standard Bible has the correct definition. At the top, adultery. It says, in scripture designates sexual intercourse of a man, whether married or unmarried. So it doesn't matter his status, when he what? Sleeps with a married woman. Okay? It didn't say with married or unmarried woman, like what the Eastern Bible Dictionary tried to classify. Okay? It's purely saying that if he goes and takes another woman who is already married. Now, let's say if you have a situation where a man is already married and he sees another woman to lust after, who's single, she's not engaged to anybody, that's not a sin. If he goes and takes unto him another woman, that is not in transgression. That's what you Christians need to get through your thick ass skull, man. And the problem is, the reason why you can't accept that is because you're living in a Western society where if if this law was actually implemented in today's society, you wouldn't see a problem with it. But because Esau has turned things upside down and predicates what's the word? Monogamous relationships as the it factor. Okay, that you should only be tied to one person, meaning a man should only be tied to one woman. All right. When you come into the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding of the scriptures and understanding how our forefathers, okay, acted upon in terms of their relationships back in the ancient world, of course, you're going to feel some type of way, man. You don't understand the scriptures. So once again, the definition for adultery for a man is when he bothers another woman who is already married. That's when he's crossed the line. But if she's not married, if she's single, that is not adultery. Now, going back, Matthew 5:27, it says, ye have heard that it was said by them of old time, thou shalt not commit adultery. But I say unto you that whosoever looketh on a woman to lust after her have committed adultery with her already in his heart. This is the scripture that is taken out of context to say if a man is already married and he looks after another woman, he's already committed adultery. That's not what that's saying. This is talking about if he looks at another woman that is currently in a relationship with another man. And how can we prove that? We want to go to, let's get the Apocrypha, and let's go to Ecclesiasticus chapter 9, verses 8 and 9. It says, turn away thine eye from a beautiful woman, and look not upon another's beauty. For many have been deceived by the beauty of a woman, for herewith love is kindled as a fire. Sit not at all with another man's wife, nor sit down with her in thine arms, and spend not thy money with her at thy wine, lest thine heart incline unto her, and so through thy desire thou fall into destruction. Right? Now, to go even further, let's look up the Good News translation. All right. So you can see what Yahweh Shai was alluding to in Matthew, the 5th chapter. So this is in the GNT translation, Ecclesiasticus, better known as Ben Sirach, chapter 9, verse 8. When you see a good looking woman, look the other way. Don't let your mind dwell on the beauty of any woman who is not your wife. Many men have been led astray by a woman's beauty. It kindles passion as if it were fire. Don't sit down to eat with another man's wife or join her for a drink. You may give in to the temptation of her charms and be destroyed by your passion. It's speaking of don't look upon another man's wife. That's all it's saying. All right. It's not simply saying that you can you can't lust after a woman, because what happened with when Isaac saw Rebecca. Let's go to that. All right. And let's see if we can find it. Genesis 24th chapter, I believe. Let me see if I can find that real quick. So it says A Bride for Isaac as the title. And all right, Salak, I think I passed it. All right, let's come down here. See, Salakia, brothers and sisters, let me just I just want to get straight to the point. Let me see here. Okay, yep, I passed it. Salakia. I'll just start at verse 15. It says, and it came to pass before he had done speaking that, behold, Rebekah came out, who was born to Bethuel, son of Milcah, the wife of Nahor, Abraham's brother, with her pitcher upon her shoulder. And the damsel was very fair to look upon, meaning she was very beautiful. A virgin, meaning she's never been touched by a man. Neither had any man known her, meaning she's never had sex with any man. And she went down to the well and filled her pitcher and came up. And the servant ran to meet her and said, let me, I pray thee, drink a little water out of thy pitcher. All right. And she said, drink, my lord, meaning master. And she hasted and let down her pitcher upon her hand and gave him drink. And when she had done giving him drink, she said, I will draw water for thy camels also until they have done drinking. And she hasted and emptied her pitcher into the trough and ran again unto the well to draw water and drew for all his camels. And the man, wondering at her, held his peace, to wit whether Yahweh had made his journey prosperous or not. Right. And it came to pass, as the camels had done drinking, that the man took a golden earring of a half a shekel weight and 2 bracelets for her hands of 10 shekels weight of gold, and said, whose daughter art thou? Tell me, I pray thee, is there room in thy father's house for us to lodge in? And she said unto him, I am the daughter of Bethuel, the son of Milcah, which she bare unto Nahor. She said, moreover, unto him, we have both straw and provender enough, and room to lodge in. And the man bowed down his head and worshiped Yahweh. And he said, blessed be Yahweh, thy power of my master Abraham, who have not left destitute my master of his mercy and his truth. I being in the way, the Lord Yahweh led me to the house of my master's brethren. And let me just quickly get to the point. Let me see if I can find it. Because in the end, basically, Isaac, he loved Rebekah, man. All right. He loved Rebekah. Now, when you drop down here, verse 57, it says, and they said, we will call the damsel and inquire at her mouth. And they called Rebekah and said unto her, wilt thou go with this man? And she said, I will go. And they sent away Rebekah, their sister, and her nurse, and Abraham's servant and his men. And they blessed Rebekah and said unto her, thou art our sister, be thou the mother of thousands of millions, and let thy seed possess the gate of those which hate them. And Rebekah arose and her damsels, and they rode upon camels and followed the man. And the servant took Rebekah and went his way. All right. Now, when you drop down, and the reason why, I wanted to go through all of that, because you're going to see when Isaac, mother Sarah passes away. All right. What did he do in mourning? Drop down to verse 67. And Isaac brought her, meaning Rebekah, into his mother Sarah's tent and took Rebekah, and she became his wife. And he loved her, and Isaac was comforted after his mother's death. But before, earlier on in the chapter, when you go back up to verse 16, all right, she was fair to look upon. Matter of fact, if we read that in a different translation, NLT, it says Rebekah was very beautiful and old enough to be married. Old enough to be married. That's the context being established here. Showing you that Isaac, he looked on her, man. He lusted after her. But she was still a virgin. She went down to the spring, filled her jug, and came up again. Isaac knew what time it was, man. So you can't sit up there and use Matthew 5:28 to say that if you look upon another woman, then, because let's say what? Okay, let's just use Isaac for an example. Using Matthew 5:28, that would mean that Isaac would have been in transgression for looking onto Rebecca. If we're going to, I'm just trying to make a point. If we're going to use that analogy, that's why it don't make sense, man. Because in the same token, let's go to the law, Deuteronomy, and the elder brought this out, the 21st chapter, in the 15th verse. It says, and this is in the law. Deuteronomy means the second book of the law. It says, if a man have two wives, one beloved and another hated, and they have borne him children, both the beloved and the hated, and if the firstborn son be hers that was hated, then it shall be, when he maketh his sons to inherit that which he hath, that he may not make the son of the beloved firstborn before the son of the hated, which is indeed the firstborn. In other words, let's say, for instance, his firstborn son came from the wife that he didn't love, that he hated. That means that he couldn't sit up there and give the inheritance to the second-born son because that particular son's mother he loved more than the firstborn son. That's all it's saying there. Okay, showing you that, you know, that their polygyny existed. But this video is not about polygyny. Like I said, this is more so tackling that it is not unlawful for a man, all right, to lust after a woman, man. Matter of fact, the scripture says in the Apocrypha, how does that go? Light woman, give not if thou hast a wife after thy mind. All right. Ecclesiasticus 7 and verse 26, it says, hast thou a wife after thy mind? Do you see a woman that you think will be, you know, good to you? All right. That can add to your substance. OK, we spoke about this in previous lessons, because really for you to be able to have multiple women, that means that you would have had back then great substance. All right. To forward. All right. Remember, a woman is considered a helpmeet unto her husband. So for that man to bring on an extra, you know, servant. OK, because when you look up the word woman in the etymology, it means female servant. And to prove that, for first time people viewing this, all right, let's go to the word woman. All right. And when you look it up, all right, right there, that's what it means. Female servant. And who is she serving? She is serving her husband only. OK, she's serving her husband. So if you back then having great substance, and I'm speaking of in the ancient world, the way it used to work back then, if you had great substance as a man and you wanted to add in an addition to help forward your substance, which also goes into your inheritance, bearing children, right? The scriptures talk about a man may be known in his children, right? We're going to grab that after this. You will bring on another woman. So it says, Ecclesiasticus 7 and 26, hast thou a wife after thy mind? Forsake her not, but give not thyself over to a light woman. Don't just marry anybody, you know, scope her out. Make sure that she can add substance, man, that she can help to forward your substance. So whether that go, like, let's go back to the law, Exodus. OK, let's get Exodus 21 and 10. In the law, if he take him another wife, her food, her raiment, and her duty of marriage, shall he not diminish? Meaning your first wife that you married, you can't diminish those three things from her when you bring in a second woman. You have to make sure that you are taking care of both of them, or else, verse 11, and if he do not these three things unto her, then she shall go out free without money. That's plain. Now, let's grab this. See if I can find it. They said a man. I'm probably wording it wrong. Man, children. See, Salakia. Yep. Sirach 11 and 28, it says, judge none blessed before his death, for a man shall be known in his children. All right, because man carries the seed, man. And part of a man's life, all right, is his, his substance, all right, his substance being forward, all right, and bringing forth children. That's even in within our law. Remember, we was told to be fruitful and multiply, man. All right. So to close off real quick, going back to Matthew, all right, 5 and 27, all right, or actually really verse 28. But I say unto you that whosoever looketh on a woman to lust after her have committed adultery with her already in his heart. That's why it's important to look up your words, because adultery for a man is if he, sleeps with another man's wife. So in context, it's really speaking on whosoever looketh on a woman who is already married. It's not saying that if you being a man already married and you look at another woman, let's say she's single, that also falls under the adultery. No, that's not what it's talking about. So Lord's will, this was edifying, and it's on to the next. Shalom.